That's a really good question. What has my triggering season looked like over the years? And where am I at today, 7 years later, after Mark has passed? Wow. That first year, I didn't even know what hit me. It was like a Mack truck that had run me over and left me alive to just try to figure things out. On year two, my brain was not so much in a grief fog, and the reality of his absence was huge. And it made me think, what was the whole rush to get through the first year of everything? Because the reality was, he was still dead. So I didn't know what I was rushing for the next year. Year three, I started to come to the reality, this is going to be hard. And I cannot run away from it. And I need to start making plans on how I'm going to deal with it. I thought the idea of a grief journey was eventually I would get over this. Eventually I would learn how to put it in a box and I would be able to manage this every year. And I realized for me, it was not going to be that way. So I needed to start preparing. I needed to start understanding what that would look like, how I would honor Mark during this time that it was so heavy on me from March to now mid-June. And when I was able to be honest with myself about that, it allowed me to manage it better. Year 4 and 5 and 6, it seemed to decrease in the sense of the intensity of what those grief waves hit. But this year, I don't know why, but year 7, it seemed so hard. It seemed at some point like I was literally back at year 1. And I know sometimes that can be frightening for people on this journey because we want to have this concept that we're progressing, that what my grief looks like now has to always be better than what it was in year 1. And I've let that go because grief is not some type of smooth stepping stone. It's messy, it's chaotic, it's like a storm that can just come from out of nowhere and then it's just quiet. But what I have learned over this time is to lean into it, because if I try to run away from grief, I feel like she has a suitcase and she is waiting till I am exhausted and tired to lean in and let the grief, the mourning, the lamenting come. Because the reality is, Mark was worth every tear. And this year, wow, it started heavy in March. And I needed to take the days off of work because I was not able to function. I wasn't able to stay on task. And I saw myself getting snappy and I was frustrated with me. And then for May, between my birthday, our wedding anniversary, Mother's Day, and yes, I have gotten remarried. And my chapter 2 has a birthday during what was the Cornwall trifecta. And I feel like that's a gift that life has given me, but that also had different emotional pulls. But the day before Mark's birthday, my anxiety was at an all-time high. And I took off work because I could not just see myself trying to function. And that day that I was off of work, I had a dentist appointment. And I went in and there were 2 ladies chatting in the waiting room. Why? Can you please tell me why? They were talking about one of a family member whose uncle passed away and wondering how the son was doing. I wanted to scream in that waiting room. Why are we talking about dead people in the dentist's office? I'm trying not to fall apart over there. And I just smiled at the ladies and just waited for the dental hygienist to call my name so I could get out of that room. And they just seemed to be talking about it so cavalier and talking about how the son had not started doing things again and he was giving himself a time out. And his dad died. And I was thinking, his father died. How can you just be talking about this so Laxy Daisy. I thought about my own son, my daughter, and what they look like trying to show up in world where their dad no longer existed. And I left that dentist office and I told Grief I was coming to meet her. And I went to the beach and I shared how I was feeling with people in my grief community. And when I left that beach, I was lighter. But I can tell you, I cried like I have not cried in so long. And I was good with it. It was hard. And there was a part of me that often thinks, what if I lose myself in that moment? 7 years later, I have not lost myself in that moment. But what I have done, I've regained a new part of me that I didn't even know existed. Because I can love Mark in his absence. I can love me enough to allow myself to love Mark. And I can keep living. So even though the grief wave and this triggering season was more difficult this year, it just shows me that it just never ends. And if I continue to do the work for me and lean into it, it won't take me out. But those tears are worth honoring Mark. And I'll be okay. Allow me to share with you some of that video from that day before Mark's birthday.
I will not pretend to hold it inside. I will not pretend to hold it inside that it does not hurt. And pretend like I'm smiling. And for me, it is always the build up. Tomorrow on his birthday, I'll probably be fine. But it is the day before the anxiety, the build up, the anticipation of the reality that tomorrow is his birthday and he is no longer here to celebrate it.